All right, it's time for the end of Unit 1 study guide. So I want to go through these ones, just kind of talk you through them. Again, if you're watching this, just make sure that you're kind of going one by one. I would not copy off my answers. If that's all you're doing, you're kind of wasting your time, okay? I will kind of explain what's going on with each problem, so make sure you're listening to that part and make sure you guys understand what's going on. Obviously, we want everybody to have a lot of success when they take this test, all right? So what we got here, it says select all the true statements. So you can see, I think it's important to look at how this is broken down. You can see that every single question starts with a different shape. It's got rhombuses, squares, right? But the rest of this is still the same, right? So same side lengths are always congruent. Same side lengths are always congruent, okay? So each statement here is written all the same. Your job is to look at it and decide based on the shape which ones are true. So you got to think about each shape, all right? So it says two rhombuses if they have the same side lengths, are they always congruent? Well, remember, rhombuses do not always have to have the same angles. They can have they can have the same side lengths, but we can change the angles and it can still be a rhombus. So because the angles can change, that is not true. All right? We can draw two rhombuses right now that have the same side lengths, but the angles are different, so that means they wouldn't be congruent. Squares, on the other hand, squares always have to have right angles. So if you have two squares and the side lengths are 3 all the time, they got to be congruent because the angles have to be right angles. We get down to quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals are any four-sided shapes. We can make those angles whatever we want, so they don't have to be congruent. They could be congruent, but they don't have to be, right? So it says always down here. Always is that trigger word for that, okay? So squares is one good answer. Quadrilaterals, not so much. Rectangles, again, have to have right angles. So if you have two rectangles and the side lengths are the same, well, then those right angles are going to make it congruent. So those do always have to be congruent. And then last but not least, parallelograms. Again, parallelograms, the angles can change. And so because the angles can change, I would say that those don't have to always be congruent. They could be, but not always, okay? So I'd go B and D on this one, okay? And the reason why is based on the angles. Okay, if the side lengths are going to be the same, you got to look at the angles because the angles have to be the same as well if we're doing something that's congruent. Okay. All right, let's get scrolled down here to number 2. Oh man, I got a bad copy. Well, as you guys know, I do not cut these videos. These videos are all live and on air, so we don't cut, we don't stop. So you're getting a little dead air time here. Let me get the other version of this that's supposed to be up here. Okay, hold on. You guys are getting behind the scenes view here. Plus, it's less time with me on the screen, so you guys should be really happy. All right, we're back. All right, let's go back to full screen here just for the sake of things. I guess we don't really need to. I can just zoom in. All right, cool. All right, so on this next problem, we've got these two intersecting lines. They give us that this angle is 108. And then the question is, what's the measure of BEC? So again, this is going to test your ability to name angles. Make sure you guys know how to name angles. BEC is this opening right here from B to C with E in the middle. All right? And so you can see that those two are vertical. And you guys know vertical angles are congruent. So we got 108 degrees there. Not too much going on there. Mrs. Brazel's heckling me from the other room. Hey, boss, how you doing? Good. All right, so Mr. Pendry came in. It is his year, so he's allowed to come in whenever he wants. It's fine. So, all right, now on this next one, I got to zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole question. Okay, it's at, and I know it's in the light. So let me scroll down so we can see the question, and then we'll scroll down up to see the answer. Okay, it says Claire created figure A, then she created figure B by doing some translations. She translated C and translated D. And then our job is to go down there and select all the true statements. Now, anytime we say all the true statements, you got to be assuming there's more than one. So let's read through them carefully. It says figure A is congruent to figure B. Well, this and this are not exactly the same. They have the same parts, but they're not exactly the same. So I would not say that they're congruent. It says figure B is a translation of figure A. I wouldn't say that either, because I can't slide this whole thing and make this. All right, the piece is slid, but not the whole thing. So I'm not going to say that figure B is a translation of figure A. Okay? Triangle C is congruent to triangle C prime. Now that I agree with, because this triangle and this triangle are definitely congruent. They're definitely both the same. So that does track. And the last one says D is congruent to D prime. And again, this triangle and this triangle are definitely the same. So in this one, it's only C and D. Remember, like we did with the face problem, the pieces and the parts can be congruent, but the whole shape doesn't necessarily congruent unless we do everything to the same, if we do all the same moves to the shape. All right, and we didn't do all the same moves. So C is congruent to C, D is congruent to D, but I would not say this whole thing is congruent to this whole thing. Okay? All right, moving on down, we got number 4. It says, describe the sequence of transformations that shows these are congruent. I want you guys to be incredibly detailed here. Okay, we cannot just say random stuff. All right, I can't flip it and turn. It's got to be very detailed up here. So what I'm going to do is, I notice that there's a gap here between A and B that's about this wide. Okay, so I'm going to flip. I can see that there's a flip happening. And how do I see that? Maybe I get out a piece of patty paper. Maybe I get out a piece of patty paper and I trace this and I start messing with it, right? Maybe a turn, maybe a flip, whatever. You figure that out. I can see there's a flip here. So I'm actually going to flip over this green line. And I do that line because that cuts the gap in half. All right? So when I flip it, it ends up looking like this. All right? And then I know, so that's my first thing. I'm going to do a reflection over this green line. Now, do you have to write an axis or whatever? I don't think you need to. You can just say what you're flipping over and make sure it's clear on your paper what you're flipping over. So I'm flipping over this green dashed line here. And then I can see if I slide it 1, 2, 3 spots to the right, they're going to match up. So that's what I would say on this. I would say I'm going to flip it over the dotted line here, and then I'm going to slide 3 units to the right, and that matches it up. Now, is that the only right answer? No, of course not. There's a lot of different right answers that you could have. If you had a different answer, you just want to check it with somebody like maybe me to see if it's right. Okay? All right, let's keep it moving here. Down here, we've got 2 pairs of shapes. Okay, we got in number 5, we got 2 pairs of shapes. It says decide whether or not they're congruent. Okay, you have to decide if they're congruent or not. Let me scroll down so you can see that word. We have to decide. So we don't know that they are congruent. We don't know that they aren't. We have to decide. Okay. So this is one of those times, especially with these shapes, we would want to use patty paper to be sure. All right. Now, if we didn't have patty paper or ruler, but we want to be sure that they're exactly the same size. This shape and this shape are not the same size. This, when I turn it, this side should match with this side, and they are not the same size. So that means the first pair are not congruent. And the reason why they're not congruent is because the side lengths are not equal. Okay? So when I turn that, it's not going to match up. Over here on number 2, when we rotate this, it looks like we'd have to rotate it 90 degrees and then flip it over to get the 2 cutouts to match up, and it does look like they would match. Now, I would check this with patty paper. So I'm telling you right now that I believe they would match because you could rotate 90 degrees clockwise and then reflect over a vertical line and get them to match up. Now, did you notice how I explained my movements? We don't just say I flip and turn. We're at a point now where I expect you to be able to explain those movements. Okay, flipping and turning was fine the last time because you guys weren't as good as you were now. Okay, you know a lot more now, so I expect you to give me a lot more. All right, so I see a rotation of 90 degrees clockwise around a point here. I see a reflection to get those to match up. They do look like they match up, but I would check that with patty paper. I wouldn't take my word for it. Okay? All right. Now, question number 6 is a problem that is definitely something you can do. All right? But it's going to take those multiple steps like we talked about in class the other day. It's not just, the answer's 7 and we move on. You really have to think through. The question is asking you to give me the names of the angles in ADE. So I'm looking for this angle. All right, there in that black dot. I'm looking for this black dot. I'm looking for this star. And I'm looking for this square. Those are the 3 that I want to find, those 3 angles. Okay? They only give you these 2 angles down here. So remember, do what you can do. Do what you know. All right, if you're not sure what these angles are yet, well, find something you do know. Well, I know this is 45, so I could find this outside angle here because it's a straight line, right? So I could do that. I could do 180 minus 45 and get that. I know this is 150, so I could get this one in here. Now that I have these two angles in this triangle, I could use that to find this angle. Well, why do I care about that angle? Well, it might show you something, right? So 30 and 45 is 75. If I take 180 minus that, I get 105, okay? So far I've done supplementary here. I did supplementary here. I used my triangle to find this angle. Well, now that gives us the star because now we see those vertical angles, okay? So these words we've been teaching you, we just expect you to be able to use them in any situation, not just specific situations that are only vertical. We expect you to be able to apply it anywhere, right? So we got vertical angles there, that's 105, so that's one of them. Now, Mr. Young, how do we get to the square or to the dot? Well, in this problem, we have to use our transversal, okay? We have two different transversals. One of the most common errors is students take this and they try to flip it. It's not a flip. All right, it's not a flip. It's actually a rotation like we showed yesterday in class. All right, so what we have here is we have alternate interior angles. Here's my parallel lines. Here's my transversal going through. This is alternate interior with the square. Okay, so those are the same right there because they're alternate interior. Now you can do the same thing on the other transversal. Again, don't flip. 30. This one's also 30. When you get the answer to the angles that are a triangle, can you please check and make sure they add to 180? One of the most common errors I get on this test is kids will give me three angles that are supposed to be a triangle and they don't add to 180. If it doesn't add to 180, you did something wrong. Okay? So I used my supplementary here and here. I used my triangle to get this angle. I did vertical to get this one. And I did alternate interior to get those two. Yes, that's a multi-step process, but that is not above what you can handle. You can handle that. All right? Okay. Number 7, this is a problem that has some depth and some detail to it. Okay? This problem is a little longer. I think the one big thing that you guys need to recognize and realize with this test is it might not take you as little time as the first one did. Like we've talked about before, the first one was very basic, very, hey, do you know, do you know, do you know? This one's, do you know and can you explain? Can you explain, can you explain? Okay? So make sure that you're being efficient. Okay? Last test saw a lot of people doodling in the corners and stuff. We don't really have time for that in this test. Okay? All right, so here's what we got. We got a triangle. We took A, B, C. We took this triangle. We translated it so A goes to C. So we slid it up. Then it says we translated it so A goes to B, and that's how we got this picture. So we took this triangle and translated it twice, and we get this beautiful, lovely drawing that we have on the board here. All right? They tell us angle A is 45. That's the only angle that we can possibly have. And they tell us angle D is 63. Okay? So it says, first question, identify two pairs of congruent angles in the figure and explain how you know. Guys, there are so many right answers to this problem that when I grade it, right, if I were to grade this problem, it would take me a couple minutes because I got to read everything because it's not just like, oh, did they write 7? Cool, check. I have to look and see, okay, what angles do they say? Because this is a translation up here, okay, we know that this is going to be 45. We know because we slid that up there. There's a pair of congruent angles. So you could say angle A, and angle A is okay for that one because it's the only possible angle, but we can't say angle C because there are 3 possible angles for angle C, and we can't just say, oh, angle C. All right? So we would have to say FCE. All right? FCE or ECF we could go with. So there's one pair. We know this is a translation, so this 63 had to have translated from over here. We know that that's 63. So there's another pair. You could say CBA and angle D. There's 2 pairs right there. But we could literally we could take a second here and fill in every angle in this picture. And then just name ones that are congruent. This one's 45 because that was the translation. This one's 63 because that was the translation, right? We could figure out this last angle. We could do 63 and 45, put those together, get 108, do 180 minus 108 and get 72 and figure out that that's 72. Okay, now if you're a kid watching this video and you just copied that 72 and you didn't think about that work and write that all down, because I didn't write it down, change what you're doing. All right, so this is 72 because we slid it over. This is 72 because we slid it over. Now, these angles here, you'll notice that the numbers are all around it, but they're gonna, this triangle in the middle is not a translation. So you can't just write them in the same order. 63 and 45, this one has to be 72 because it's got to add up to 180, right? 63 and 72, this angle here has to be 45. And this has to be 63. It looks like it's a rotation in there in the middle, okay? So which ones do you name? Any of them that are the same. Make sure you use 3 letters to name your angles, please, okay? Now, I'm going to scroll down and scroll back up so I can read the question to you, and then we can go back up, okay? So it says, what is the measure of CBE, and explain how you know. So it's asking us for this angle right here. We already filled it in. We know the answer is 72. Great. How did we know? All right, so what I would explain, how I would explain that is, I would explain that when I do the translation, I get 45 and 63, and that these angles right here have to make they make a straight line. And so then I would show my work. I would just say 63 plus 45 is 108. 180 minus 108 is 72. And it's because they're supplementary, because they make a straight line, that's how they work. All right? So that's one where showing your work is an explanation. And please understand that. Showing your work is an explanation. You are allowed to show work to explain. Okay? You don't have to go into a big worded detail if you can show me your work. If you can prove you got these from a translation. Now, you can't just say this is 45 because I said so. You have to say it was a translation, but then you can show your work to show how you got the 72 in the middle. Okay? And then last but not least down here, it says name a triangle congruent to CBE. Listen, y'all, this comes down to, oh man, why is it not, oh no, why is it not matching back up? I don't want to have to rewrite all those. That's so weird. Why did it do that? It's making me mad. Oh, my word. Oh, my days. Okay, let's try to get it matched back up. And if I have to rewrite them, I'll rewrite them, I guess. But I really don't want to. That's too zoomed in, isn't it? I have no idea how that happened. Oh, I gotta rewrite them. Can you believe this? All right, well, that bottom row's okay. All right, so this is 72, this was 72, this was 63, this was 45, this was 72, this was 60, this was 45, this was 63. Okay, so the question says, give me a triangle that's congruent to CBE. Remember what we talked about in class. You have to name them in the right order. So when you name your triangle, and you're trying to match it up with CBE, okay, it goes 63, 72, and 45. Okay, those are the angles in order. CBE, 63, 72, and 45. When you name your triangle, make sure you go in the order of 63, 72, 45. Now, there are 3 right answers, right? You can go with that one. You can go with that one. You can go with that one. As long as you name them in the right order, it'll be fine, okay? So, this one's a little more explanation heavy, so make sure you guys take your time, explain things out well, and if you got any questions, let me know.